Come closer, little ones. Closer still, while the fire holds. You have heard how Menes bound the two lands beneath one crown. You have heard how Djoser and Imhotep raised the first mountain of stone. Tonight is a harder story. Tonight, I tell you how the greatest kingdom the world had ever seen slowly came apart. Not in one night, not by one enemy, but stone by stone, season by season, until the crown itself slipped into the dark. Listen well. For 500 years, Kemet had stood like nothing before it. The pyramids of Giza already rose against the sky. Scribes counted the harvest. Officials carried the king's word from the delta to the deep south. And above it all sat the Pharaoh, a king upon the throne. The people believed he commanded the Nile itself, that his power held back hunger and chaos and night. Remember these little ones. The higher a thing is built, the farther it has to fall.
Then came a king named Pepi. He took the throne as a small boy, smaller than some of you, and he ruled and ruled and ruled, longer than any king Egypt had ever known, longer than any it would ever know again. The years became decades. His sons grew old, waiting for a throne they would never live to take. They died before their father. A king is the heart of a kingdom. But even a great heart grows tired. While the old king faded in his palace, others grew strong. In every province ruled a governor, a nomarch. Once they served the crown. Once they were buried beside their king. But now they ruled like little kings. They passed their powers to their sons, and they no longer raised their tombs beside the Pharaoh. They built them at home, in their own land. The kingdom was not yet broken, but it was already pulling apart.
And so the throne grew poorer. Every dead king needed priests to feed his spirit forever. Every temple demanded land and grain and gold. Gift after gift flowed from the palace to the powerful, and never came back. The living king was giving away his kingdom, one blessing at a time. The provinces filled their storehouses. The crown emptied its own. And slowly, quietly, without a single battle, the Pharaoh grew poor in the land he ruled.
But the cruelest enemy did not come from the provinces. It came from the sky. The rains that fed the great river far to the south began to fail. Year after year, the Nile rose lower and lower and lower. The flood that brought black earth and golden grain, the flood the king himself was said to command, did not come. And the people lifted their eyes to the palace and began for the first time to wonder. When the flood fails, little ones, everything fails. The fields cracked, the grain ran out, cattle grew thin, and then the people grew thinner. Mothers measured grain by the handful. Whole villages walked the cracked riverbed, searching for water that was not there. Hunger crept from house to house like a shadow with no end. A king was meant to hold back this darkness, but the darkness had come anyway. And a king who cannot feed his people is no longer a king to them.
And then the old king died. For more than 90 years, by the old reckoning, Pepi had worn the crown. For so long his shadow had been the only sky Egypt knew. And when it lifted at last, there was nothing solid beneath. A sun ruled briefly and died. Then another took the crown, and another, and another. Kings rose like sparks from this very fire, bright for a moment, then gone into the dark before the people could even learn their names. The old writers tried to remember those days, and the count they left behind sounds almost like a curse. 70 kings in 70 days. Perhaps it was not exactly so. Perhaps it was their way of saying something simpler and far more frightening, that no one was truly ruling at all. The throne of Horus, the seat of kings and giants, had become a chair that no man could hold. The center of the world was empty.
And now, little ones, comes the saddest part. Do you remember Menes, the king who joined the two lands beneath a single crown? That gift came undone. The north no longer obeyed the south. The south no longer trusted the north. Province turned against province. The one Egypt became many Egypts again, frightened, hungry, and alone. Everything Menes had bound together fell apart in their hands. It had taken a great king to unite a people. It took only chaos to break them. In the silence where a pharaoh had been, strong men rose. Governors raised their own armies. They fought for grain. They fought for water. They fought for land that had once belonged to all of Egypt. One carved proudly in his tomb that he fed his people while others starved, and that his soldiers struck fear into every neighbor. This was the new order. No king upon a golden throne, only hard men with hungry borders, taking what they could hold.
In time, two great powers rose from the ruin. In the north, kings ruled from from a city called Heracleopolis. In the south, a bold new line rose at Thebes, a town that had been almost nothing, now reaching for everything. 2 thrones, 1 river, and no peace between them. Egyptian against Egyptian, brother against brother. The same people who once cheered a single king now drew swords across the Nile. The 2 lands were no longer divided by distance, but by blood. And the war was real, little ones. In the cliffs near Thebes, long after, diggers found a tomb. Inside lay 60 men, soldiers. Their wounds still spoke of arrows and stone, of a desperate fight beneath some forgotten wall. They were wrapped with honor and buried together by their king. 60 sons, 60 mothers, waiting for men who never came home. History remembers the names of kings, but the earth remembers the soldiers.
From Thebes came a king who would not accept a broken world. His name was Mentuhotep. Year after year he fought, until at last the northern throne fell, and the river ran beneath one crown once more. After more than 100 years of darkness, Egypt was whole again. The people reached back through memory for someone to compare him to, and they found only one name. They called him the Second Menace, he who unites the 2 lands. The fire had fallen low. Remember this, little ones. No kingdom is too great to fall, not even the one that built the pyramids. It was not struck down by a single enemy, but worn away by time, by greed, by a river that turned its back, by men who forgot they were one people. Yet Egypt rose again. What chaos breaks, patience can rebuild. The pyramids still stand in the desert, and the kingdom that fell still has something to teach us. Now go home and remember.